Hey all, this is episode 2 of Remember Your Greatness, which is now a YouTube channel and a podcast, I've decided. In episode 1, I spoke about some of my concerns and some of my fears, so we're going to address that in this episode 2. The episode is in 2 sections. The first part is my interview with Kyle Cease, and the second part is me bringing my concerns and fears and worries to him, and we have a really cool coaching session. So stay tuned until the very, very end. Hello, everybody. So I mentioned in the first episode that I was going to have somebody on to help me through some of the fears that I mentioned in the first episode, and that is none other than Kyle Cease. We've been sort of social media friends for a while. Now we've met in person a few times. We're becoming real friends, like in-person human friends, which is awesome. And before we get started on just some of the concerns I had, I wanted to just give you guys a sense of Kyle, and I want to ask a few questions. So Kyle, welcome. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. It's good to be with you, brother.
I watched some of your comedy, and I of course want you to introduce, who you are and what you do and why and everything, but I watched some of your comedy probably 2 weeks ago, and I looked at that guy and I was like, wow, that guy is really, really different from who you are now. I'd love you to just talk about the journey from like very successful comedian to like, nah, this is not for me, to what you do now.
Yeah. I think that I have always been overall the most fascinated by what the highest truth of what I am is. And instead of being identified as being the best at one career or one story, I will even give up the ultimate career to get closer and closer to the truth of what I am. I am not as interested in the linear timeline thing where you're, seeing this thing is the answer and I'm going to, in 10 years from now, be the best at that. I feel more like instead of looking at life in a linear timeline sense, which would be like, in my opinion, being in a building and looking down the edge of a floor, I kind of see myself more as an elevator. And the elevator can look down a floor and go, maybe that's my thing, or maybe that. And then more and more you start to realize I'm something that really is more excited about my ascension, which is a nothing word to a lot of people. But to me, that means I release more and more of what I'm not, more and more things that I became in order to not feel trauma, for instance, right? Like as a kid, I noticed that I felt only safe with my father when we watched comedy. And I ended up becoming a comedian, and I thought that that was my dharma, that was my calling, and at one point it was. But it was actually, I'm realizing, my escape from being hurt, my escape from being ignored, my escape from being spanked so hard I went to the hospital, my escape from being neglected. And when we're kids, a lot of times we have these dreams of what we want. And the more I do the work, I realize a lot of those dreams are escapes. You almost picture like a kid in a screwed up family household fantasizing about the ultimate marriage. And one day I won't be like my parents, right? So at one point, my fantasy was to become a comedian. And I became a very, very, very successful comedian. I did, as a comedian, probably 500 colleges, headlined every comedy club in the country, had 2 Comedy Central careers, did teen movies, 10 Things I Hate About You, Not Another Teen Movie, and, lived in that world, and then went through whatever I had to go farther and go deeper, because at one point it wasn't filling my soul. And I think that one revelation I had that started the beginning of changing my life was the revelation, when something happens, I'll be happy. Myself and every comic I knew was always kind of in a fantasy of, if I get on this late night show, if I get in this festival, if I, whatever. And I believe that that's an insane place that we all live. You know, a lot of us live in, when this happens, I'll be happy. So it's not only external things, like when I get the money, when I get the career, it's also internal. When I have a breakthrough, when I'm over this addiction, I'll be happy. When I'm, finally seen, when I get it. And they're all little escapes. And, realizing that my happiness was so circumstantial, and that really a lot of my comedy career, and I think a lot of our lives in our 20s, are all just a giant escape from trauma. And at one point I realized something higher than that was birthing, and something calling me to be more connected to my light source, my true source, my true self was really wanting to be seen. And it was asking me to purge more and more my dad's patterns in my body, my mom's patterns in my body, the me that connected and thought who I am is basically, this sounds weird, but my parents' ego's kid, that what I am is, the fixing of my mom's loneliness, or, the avoidance of my dad's anger. I'm God's kid, or I'm the now's kid, and I'm a very creative being, and it wants to create differently than how I wanted to create in order to not get hurt as a child. And so, yeah, at one point, the comedy world was amazing. And what you saw in my stand-up, by the way, was also a me that performed differently when I was filming a special than when I was just doing a gig. I felt, don't blow it. I felt, I'm worried, and I cannot stand my Comedy Central special stuff compared to if I just showed you a clip of me headlining a club when I didn't even know a camera was on in the room, and you go, oh, that's what Kyle was as a comic. But still, recently, for like the first time in years, I went on stage in a comedy club and performed maybe 2 months ago, maybe a month ago even. And I will tell you, it is not my life anymore. It was not, it was fun to whip out the old material and attempt it, but my soul has outgrown that. And it was funny because it would be like trying to get a size 20 foot into a size 5 shoe, putting me in a comedy club and on stage. Just wasn't where I belong anymore. And so I had fun and I had a great set, but I just felt contracted and small. And I noticed that there's something higher that wants to create through me, and it doesn't want to do it in any conventional way. And it thinks out of the box so much that there is no box. And yeah, so I am on this planet to get closer and closer to what I truly am. I'm more fascinated by what I truly am than what's the best of what I can do. And if I'm trying to get love because it's filling a void, then that love needs to not be the answer, and this void needs to be seen instead. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And I was just thinking, so all this stuff that you know now, you didn't know then when you were like about to leave comedy. So I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So what did you feel? Did you feel an emptiness? What did you feel?
At one point, there was an emptiness just in noticing how many people I knew that we were all successful, and constantly thinking, what if this falls apart? What if it doesn't work? What if I don't get, like, no one was enjoying their success. Everyone, it was like the more success people had, the more they were in their head, the more neurotic they were, the more there was something to lose. So I think one day I was in the back of a van with a couple other comedians heading to a gig, and I noticed everyone was successful and absolutely miserable. And the factor of success has nothing to do with the external. And that was the beginning of this revelation where I switched from when something happens, I'll be happy, to when I'm happy, things will happen. But as I kept going, I started noticing I believed less and less in motivation. Like, motivation is where you're like going to make something happen because you think life is the answer when that thing happens. And when that happens, I'll be happy. And more life became about letting go of everything that didn't align with me. So I started letting go of habits. I started letting go of bad food. I started letting go of so many different things. And at one point, the comedy world, I felt heavy. Like for me to get on a plane and go headline a comedy club, I was like, God, I don't want to go. And I was like, oh, this is heavy. And so my mantra started being in this time, when you let go of something, the only reason you're stressing is you can only measure what you will lose. You can't see what you will gain. I was doing this inner work with my friend Diego, and he actually was the one that said it. But I noticed whenever I'm wanting to let go of something, I'm only stressed because I can measure what I will lose. I can't see what I'll gain. And whenever I'm keeping anything in my life that I feel like I have to, but is not a calling in my heart, I'm keeping an old me alive that's attached to that thing. And so I noticed I want to let go of comedy. I don't want to do comedy anymore. And I don't know what I'll do on the other side, but I know I'll be vibrationally lighter because I'm not holding on to the me that has to do comedy. I'm not holding on to the me that, there's a lot I can lose if I let go of comedy, but some of those things I'd love to lose, like my dad's approval, like the need for dad's approval, right? And weirdly, in letting go of comedy, I noticed what was on the other side was possibilities that I couldn't hear while I was holding on to comedy, like a voice going, what would happen if you merged comedy and transformation? You would have your own field. Like you could be speaking at the seminars of the other speakers. You could speak at corporates. You could do the lecture circuits at colleges. You'd be an Eckhart Tolle that does comedic delivery. That would be a field that's wide open. You'd be a breath of fresh air. And I'm getting closer to the real me here that maybe isn't identified as a comic, but is identified as evolution, and comedy and transformation are two of the many tools that I have. And this even changes my identity. I'm not even identified as a comic. I'm now. And,
It's so interesting because you let go of a more restricted version of comedy to jump into something that you couldn't have imagined in that state.
I had to not know what it was. We a lot of times need egoic evidence before we leap something. Like some people won't leave a bad relationship till they see the next one forming, and they see the evidence of the next one, but then you don't change at all. It's when you leap and you don't know what it is that you have to kill the one who was attached to that old thing. So if you leave something and get into the evidence of a new one without the healing, or if the new one can help the healing, that can be great. But a lot of times we're just vine swinging, but we're not evolving. And when I let go of stand-up, I truly didn't have any evidence of what. In fact, I had a ton of evidence of what I would lose. I let go of stand-up and didn't know what I would do for a while. And I would see comics that used to open for me becoming household names. And I was like, did I make a mistake? And I would feel this little thing that go, hold on to me. I'm going to introduce you to God. You're surrendering your ego's dream for the truth of what you are.
100%. I love that. I saw your film Illusion of Money. The Illusion of Money? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you sent me, and I was very moved.
Thank you.
And it tells your story to some degree, and I really urge everybody to go and see the film. I'm going to put a link in the show notes so you can actually go onto Kyle's site and watch the film. It was very moving, and I actually sent it to somebody at the very end of watching it. I sent it to somebody who's been in a lot of pain about money and a bunch of things. And I can't say their name, but they're very well known. They were so moved. They were crying within the first 10 minutes.
Wow.
It's beautiful, beautiful film. I'd love to know like how that came about and why the focus on money.
Well, I think that one of the things we don't realize is we have an external version of something and an internal version of something. So this is not only with money, but it's with people. Like, in other words, your issue with your mother or your father is actually an avatar of them that exists inside your body, right? Like you can actually see certain people that aren't in the room. Everyone has a Joe Biden and a Donald Trump in their body, and the reason different people feel different things about different people is because of the triggers and their own patterns. So in other words, the external isn't the factor, right? So same with money. There's what money is outside of you, which is just nothing. It's just whatever it is. But there's a meaning that you have with it on the inside of you. Right? On the inside of you, money, if you grew up with parents that said money doesn't grow on trees, money equals, for you to make money equals disconnecting from your family. For some people, money equals freedom. But if money equals freedom, then when you get it, you're not really free because it could leave. So a lot of people that think money equals freedom are more enslaved when they get a bunch of money. So how about freedom equals freedom? How about you free is more freedom than money, right? So I say the illusion of money because people don't have a money issue. They have a belief system issue, and they have it tied to money. And it's ironic because I've learned that when you make money bigger than your soul, if you are doing inner work and you're an aware being and you make money bigger than your soul, you will lose both. Because the universe is trying to get people who want to know their soul to their soul. And if you believe money is bigger than your soul, then if you have a bunch of money, you don't get to access your soul, right? So the universe goes, okay, you're using this as an addiction to ignore your soul. So a lot of times I'm going to take it away from you because you think it's your form of security versus the now, versus your soul. When you make your soul bigger than money, very often you make both. When you make a decision that's based on what your soul wants, when I left stand-up, I had a lot of money coming in as a stand-up comic. When I left stand-up, for a while I didn't know what to do, but then eventually I started thinking, what if you combine comedy and transformation? I started making videos for the colleges that booked me as a comic, and the next thing I know, I'm doing my own field where I'm suddenly doing a gig. I did like 100 gigs at a higher price, and I'm speaking my heart, and it's not in a conventional way that your mind could see you're supposed to do to make money, but it suddenly made way more money. It was more lucrative. But what I had to do was let go of the guarantee of money for my soul, and it turns out my soul had all this worthiness, all this possibility, all this creativity, all this flow in it, and it had more ideas and more paradigm-busting solutions that I didn't know about. Right? It was like I was on a different field and a different frequency. So the money became more successful the more I let go of my guarantee of money and went to my soul. Most people want a guarantee of money. So they will take a job they hate and give 8 hours a day to work at a Walmart or something because they see the check that they'll get. Right? I can see the guarantee of the check. So that guarantee means I'll give 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day of my time over for the guarantee of money. So soul is in the back seat. Right? But if you go, okay, I can hear, and it has to be a calling. You don't go, okay, I'm just going to follow nothing and think it's my heart so really deep down so I can get a bunch of money. It has to be your soul, and it's scary, and it's a calling. You follow that, and you're going to be shocked at how much it takes you to a frequency that is able to receive abundance, that is not spending that abundance on a bunch of egoic addictions because you're not out of alignment anymore. The people that have jobs they hate but make millions of dollars, they spend a ton of that money on therapy, on blood pressure medication, on I got to stay significant, so I have the most expensive car, I have to have the most expensive house, I have to look good, I have to keep everything going. This is a rat race that's exhausting and also can be really expensive. You get to your soul, and your soul doesn't want to spend that much money. It's just creative, and in its highest place, everything it wants to do is like just sit in nature and a bunch of things that are free, right? So there's this you that your soul is, that when you stop making your belief about money bigger than you, you will start to find that your soul is very unique. It's not replaceable. Bob Proctor said your value is based on how easily replaceable you are, right? If I'm accessing my comedy and my transformation and my truth, you can't replace me, right? So I'm going to be very, very valuable, right? You bring all the best of you in, and the God version of you, there's only one you. If you cut off your God version so you can get the guarantee of money, there's a billion of you. right? You quit that job that anyone can do, or there will be someone that replaces you. You're not worth that much. But it's our job, in a way, I don't mean responsibility, but we have this possibility to access the unique version of ourselves. And that one is not replaceable. And that one's worth a lot of money. And so it's up to us to find out the truth of who we are, and you'll be shocked at how much money takes care of itself.
That's so interesting. And by the way, for those of you who see the film, I hope you all do, the film isn't really about money, as Kyle's saying. I mean, it really is about the soul and the urgings of the soul, which gets me to what I also want to talk to you about, importantly. And by the way, before we do, when we got on, Kyle and I said we look like twinsies right today. Glasses,
yes,
sort of grayish hair. You have less gray hair than I do. Mine's very, very white. But in the backlight,
I just have less hair than you do. I probably have the same amount of gray. It's just I have less hair.
We do look like twinsies. Did you have a chance to see that sort of 15-minute episode I posted a couple of days ago?
I did not.
Okay,
because
no problem.
I did not get to. Just so everyone knows and has backstory, the last 2 days, 2 days ago, what is it today? Today's Tuesday. So 3 days ago, Saturday. Saturday, I did the craziest thing, and this is a great example of following my heart versus what society would say. I both had a funeral for my father and buried my father, and 3 hours later got married. So I went to Vegas and did the old bury and marry. But I've
never heard that before. Bury and marry, the old bury and marry.
Yeah, it's the burn and turn of.
Good Lord.
Yeah, we went to Vegas. On the way to Vegas, we're in the security line, and I look at Amber and I go, "What if we just got married there?" And we sat on the plane, and she slowly got into it and said, "I'm up for it." And I realized I'm burying my father. My best friend of 35 years will be there. My daughter will be there. His wife will be there. You know, in the old way, you plan it all out and you do it the right way so that you have this perfect wedding and it's this fantasy, and you realize, holy crap, that's control. Like, that's control. I want it to be my big wedding that fairy tale vision. And, you know, I so hope Amber felt honored and that we did do it spontaneously, but it almost felt to both of us like it was required for our soul's evolution to get married. And I don't mean it like required, like it's bad. We wanted it, but we've noticed every move we make seems to be a death to something else. For me to get married is the death of a me that didn't believe in marriage, that feels the world's out to get me, that I have to protect myself, that, you know, this woman is the answer to my life. She's everything. And there's a pattern in me that believed marriage would be bad. And I have been through so many relationships that were such a nightmare. And thank God I never married them. This is, you know, so as a side note, because it's so fresh in my heart right now, I'm sorry I didn't get to see the video yet. But to the audience, that's because I am married. I've never been married, and I am married to the love of my life. And I'm so happy.
You sent me a photo on, I think it was on Saturday, in the evening, and of the two of you in the field, and then you said we got married, and I was like, of course you did, of course you did, of course you threw out all the plans, and you were like, screw it, let's do this.
I think I'm just more not a planner than I am, like the idea. We kept having a date and pushing it because I'm like, God, I don't want to call a wedding planner and all that stuff. I just want to be married to her. And
I love it.
I move on spontaneity. Like God talks to me, you know, in a not corny, what you've been through way.
Yeah.
Like I get guidance and I get callings, and it said, just to get married now.
Yeah.
And it felt like the truth. She felt the same thing. And I healed a pattern in me that says I can't commit because people will hurt me. And I freaked out the night before and cried it out, and I feel like I'm in heaven now.
I love it.
A lot of people, when they get married, they say, oh, it's the same as the day before. You just have the ceremony, but I was always with her. Dude, for me, it's everything changed.
Yeah. I'm totally with you. Having been married for 15 years, I think marriage is awesome with the right person.
Yeah,
it's absolutely
the
awesome.
Right person.
So that was the interview with Kyle Cease, and now we're going to get into the coaching session with Kyle. And I will confess to having had a lot of um, trepidation, nervousness about doing this. And I think it wasn't because of doing this kind of discussion or coaching or therapy. It was that I was going to do it so publicly. There was something very vulnerable about that. But the reason I wanted to do it publicly is because I really want to model for people that doing this kind of work is really important. I think especially as guys, we bottle everything up, which I think is not healthy. And I want people to see that it can be very powerful. There's something wonderful about digging down into our own vulnerabilities. And yeah, I just wanted to model that this kind of exploration is important and necessary. So stay tuned till the very end and I'll have a chat with you guys. In the video I did, I talked about like this sort of new channel I'm doing and about I'm sort of coming out of the spiritual closet to some degree, because a lot of the conversations that you and I have had, for instance, I have privately with friends. I have with my wife. I have with some of my mentoring clients, but not with the public. And in the series, The Vow, which you guys are starting to watch, you and Amber, you'll see that there's a lot of vulnerability, which was difficult because it went out in the world and I got a lot of like, well done, and a lot of like, you're an asshole, you're a horrible human being, your vulnerability disgusts me, that kind of thing. So what I wanted to do, I was telling Bonnie, like, I'd love to have a chat about this kind of thing with somebody. And she said, Kyle, talk to Kyle. Tell Kyle what you're struggling with. It would be an amazing conversation. And so that's how, through another friend, we got to you. So let me just share with you a little bit of what it is that I am struggling with. It's not like I'm not doing it, because I've launched the channel, I'm doing it. But there's all these feelings and things going on that I want to share with you and get some of your thoughts and some of your guidance.
I'd be honored.
When I left the cult, when I sort of woke up and, and just was horrible, I realized like I never want to lead again. I never want to tell people how they should live their life. Like, I'm done. And I went to war, working with the FBI, using the legal system to try and take a very bad man down, who's now in prison for a long, long time, forever in his life, I should say, 120 years. He's now served 3 years. Because I had this feeling of like, I was in a leadership position and there was all this damage, and I never want to give anybody feedback again. I never want to tell anybody how they should live their life. I never want to cause damage. So there was all this fear of causing damage. And I realized I don't want to lead, which of course is weird because like I'm a film director and leadership is what it is. So step onto a set, I'm leading. But somehow that feels different because I'm not leading people so much internally. I'm just leading with respect to what I want to end up on screen. Some of that is a little bit internal, working with actors. So there's this fear of causing damage. There's this fear of people looking at me like I have all the answers and sort of gurufying me. And I know that even if anybody tries to dissuade people from doing that, they still do it. They naturally do it. And intellectually, I also understand there's no way you can't cause damage in the world. Like, it's happening all the time. You're causing wonderful things, you're causing damage. So intellectually, I understand all of that. And intellectually, I also understand, like, I'm not going to abuse people, but I'm worried that people will listen to what I'm saying and take action and, have bad repercussions and feel abused or whatever. So that's one part of it. The real feelings of like, I don't want to hurt anybody. And then I don't know if it's an equal measure, but there's also this feeling of like, I'm going to get shit for this. Because like, I'm the cult guy. I'm the guy that talks about cults, the abuse of like your goodwill, the abuse of spirituality, cult leaders who are spiritually bypassed or psychopaths. Like, I'm that guy to warn people about these things and show them how the patterns work. And now that guy is talking about spirituality. I'm going to get a lot of shit for it. I already get some shit for some things. Like, I post certain things about, whatever, looking inside, personal growth, whatever, and I get shit for it. Reddit threads are full of discussions about me and, of course, millions of other people. So there's also the feeling of like, this is very vulnerable because now I'm coming out and I'm going to get shit for it. And to some degree, like, okay, I'm going to get shit for whatever, but it still hurts, because most of the shit I get is not true. Like, in being such a public figure in such a dark space, a lot of people have opinions about me. It's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I wanted them so badly to understand who I really was.
Yes.
And through different friends and my wife, they can't understand who I am,
Right.
I should say, because they're not me. They have their own nervous system, and they see, ghouls and ghosts and monsters everywhere. And I get it. So a lot of my audience are people that have been very, very hurt. And the last thing they want to hear about is spirituality, and the internal world and spiritual growth, because they've thrown a lot of that out, as did I. 2017, I threw everything out. Jesus is a sociopath. Buddha was a psychopath. They're all assholes. Every single spiritual teacher is full of shit. They're all lying. And a part of me, by the way, knew this is temporary. There was a voice in me that said, yeah, this is temporary. Just do this for a while. It's going to change. So I've always known it's going to change. And it appears now in 2025 is when the urging that I've been feeling of, like, you can't not be talking about the shit that's important to you. The reason I got into cults, a number of them, is because of my fascination with who am I? What is this? What is the truth of me? And I've had profound experiences in my life. So I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah.
But I find there's a little bit of trepidation, perhaps some hesitation. My destiny, let's call it that, is to step fully into who I am, whatever that means. And there's a part of me that's saying, yeah, just be careful. Yeah, just hold back. Yeah, you might hurt people. And does this, what I'm saying, make sense to you?
Yeah, totally. Well, here's the first thing I want to ask you. If you could have a choice between you getting everyone on all those Reddit threads and everyone talking about you to like you, if you had the choice that you have an insanely perfect positive image online and that everyone has a good opinion about you, or people continue to say worse and worse stuff, it gets really bad, but you're completely free of caring about it, which one would you pick?
So in the second, I'm harming people as well?
No, like, well, first of all, this one's just about their opinion, right? People will say stuff that's not true, right? Like, if you had the choice between they say stuff that's not, that the choice is we can get them all to see that you're wonderful, right? Or their opinion can be whatever it is, and we could even go to a world where it's really bad, but you're energetically free of it mattering.
Okay, I would choose freedom. I would absolutely choose freedom.
Yes. So one of the things we want to do is, first of all, look at that we choose that, right? Because the first way is still control, right? And the control is what's remaining in you that says, I want to have people see this good thing about me, right?
Yeah.
So I want to just point out that we're on this planet, in my opinion, to like get closer and closer to our soul. And I guarantee you our soul would not say, your positivity and your joy in your heart is measured by how many people say good things about you online.
Yeah.
Right? Anyone that's ever run for president was violently hated by half the country, right? Like, it's just like, but there's almost a freedom in some of them where they're just like almost into it or don't care or free from that, right? So I just want to point out, liberation and surrender would be the whole world could hate you and you're free. Right. And
yes.
Not that it would be that they hate you, but if we had the option of you freeing yourself from that tethering, would be a better choice than we have maneuvered them all to like you.
100%. And also, like, I noticed something years ago when we released the film What the Bleep Do We Know, like, and I was talking about stuff, we got a lot of shit for it. I didn't care at all because I had so much arrogance and bravado. I had so much like, you guys are idiots and I know the way.
Yes.
And this is my movie and this is the way.
Yes.
That covered, I think, any insecurity. Whereas now I don't have the bravado and arrogance in the same measure. I may still have some of it, but I don't have it in the same measure. So now there's a vulnerability that feels exposed.
That comes from the fact that you've been through things that haven't all the way been healed or forgiven or released, right? So, yes, there's this time where you have invincibility. Someone doesn't like you. You almost don't care. It's not hitting any wounds, right?
Yes.
And I know that feeling. I've had people make stuff up about me. I almost killed myself. I almost jumped. I literally got to an overpass and about jumped off of it. And then after that, anytime someone made up stuff about me or whatever, it hurt more. And I realized I've never healed that when someone makes up something about me, it can lead to me killing myself, to my daughter losing her father. So, one of the solutions that sounds crazy that I have to that is I've let myself feel through the darkest things until they leave inside, right? So, to give you an example, I find that whatever someone truly fears the most, they have to feel through that thing happening. So, a good example is I, for a few years, have had nightmares of losing my daughter in a public place, that I can't find her. It's a nightmare I have. Because it's a nightmare, I know that it's something that I'm still, or at least had been, egoically controlling. In other words, I'm not letting God take this. I'm not letting myself just get present. This is a thing that 5-year-old Kyle is trying to run and control, that I don't lose my daughter. And it creates that egoic fear control energy where when I'm in public with Vivi, I've had the energy of like, don't leave, don't go too far. You can feel my ego fear. And a lot of times, whatever we're scared of, believe it or not, we actually manifest, because we also want to be free of this fear. So sometimes if you're scared someone will abandon you, you'll push them to do it, or you'll nudge at them too much or whatever, because deep down you want to be free of this fear. So often we aim for the fear that we're most scared of feeling, right? Because you'll be finally free when it happens. Because whatever fear's in our body, we have two ways of getting it out. One is we feel through it internally through meditation, let it happen. So I have actually let myself internally jump off the overpass into the semi and die, right? Internally. I've let myself commit the suicide and feel through it and cry and say goodbye, because I noticed that suicide is never you that wants to die. It's a pattern trying to die. So I've noticed that whatever my biggest fear is, I let myself have it. I had a day where I actually let myself feel I lost Vivi. This is not me aiming for it. This is me surrendering my egoic control of it, which actually makes the odds much less that I would actually do it. So I feel through it. So one of the two ways that the universe lets you heal your fear is to point blank feel it, right? And experience it and go through the fall apart of that thing so the egoic part that's trying to control that can die. The other way is it manifests it, because you won't be worried about it once it actually happened. You have a giant fear of divorce. You have a giant fear of divorce. Well, once you're divorced, you don't have the fear of divorcing anymore, right? So it can either let you feel through it, or it can make you experience it. So whatever we hold on to more and more, it'll make you experience it. But when we let go of it, it now is gone, right? So what I want to offer is for you to have the truest level of your true self. We got to surrender what people think being a thing. And I've had to do that too. It's just like you get real powers when it's not everyone loves me, so I'm amazing. It's I love me, and I am proud of myself, and I'm following my soul. And other people will just be triggered by me. Some things they say might be right, some things they say might be wrong, but I will be authentic with myself. If I don't like something about myself, I'll change it, but I can't be what people think. And the more you go up in light, the more people will hate you. The more you become truth, the more people that won't face truth will attack you. It's just part of life. They're so threatened by someone moving into a true place. If they didn't do that, you just sound like you're saying, without even saying it, that their life was a lie, right? And so when you are in your truth, it's very triggering for people. They get very mad at that. And then the part you have about, I'm worried that I will hurt the world. Here's a really interesting thing. I'm worried I'll hurt people. You notice narcissists don't ever have that worry. right? This is
Never.
an empath. An empath is so already cognizant of it. And they almost just assume overall, empaths assume me just living in my heart is hurting the world. It's like thinking Tina Turner hurt Ike by freeing herself from him. Do you get what I'm saying? Like that. Do you know what I mean by that analogy? Like,
I
Ike
do.
Turner was abusing and controlling Tina Turner, and Tina Turner's thinking, for me to be free would hurt Ike. And empaths have trained themselves. I'm only hurting people from being able to control me or manipulate me, and I associate that to hurting people. In other words, I don't think you, Mark Vicente, are someone capable of hurting people. And you have this belief that you're tying to you being your true self will hurt someone. And yeah, it might hurt someone's egoic control. It might hurt someone's manipulation. If I get healthy, I'm also hurting parasites. Should I be there for the parasite worms in my body and supply to them and then I also, by being my true self, hurt people who act like parasites because I won't let them keep their control on me and take my energy. And so you have to ask yourself, how am I hurting the world by bringing truth? If truth hurts the world, let it. The world needs to go through its truth, because it can only hurt things that are in a lie. But there's no way Mark Vicente is someone who would go out of their way and actually manipulate anybody. You're just
Mm.
bringing truth, and you're associating bring truth and freeing the world as hurting it because they have to face some of their shit. But I don't know how you would hurt someone, because
So,
and you're so cognizant of that. That's how empathetic you are anyway, that you
yeah.
you wouldn't be hurting anyone. You'd just be freeing the planet.
So here's one thing. Everything you're saying, 100% true. I think there's one thing that I'm finding. There's a little corner that I'm suddenly feeling, which is, hold on. So when What the Bleep came out, it was very popular. It took us a while, but it eventually became very popular. And I saw it had wonderful effects, and I saw there were some not wonderful effects. And some of the not wonderful things were, I saw people that were very delusional use it as a way to bypass life
Hmm.
and become more delusional. Now, it's funny, as I say that, I'm thinking, well, Mark, were they not delusional before they saw your film, they became delusional? Or were they already delusional, they saw your film and they found proof? Okay, I think I answered that one for myself. But I realized that a lot of my so-called spiritual self is wrapped up with seeing some of the, because I was much less embodied then when I made the
Mm-hmm.
film than I am now. And
Mm-hmm.
I was very bypassy. And I see that bypassing is not good for people.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of married to dissociation. Like it's not good. And so I realized, like, part of me is worried about, I don't want people to take my words and what I say, because I do feel I have wisdom to share,
Yeah.
and do that with it. And then, but as I'm saying it now, I'm thinking, well, how do I control that? Well, I fucking can't.
You not only can you not, but I would offer this energy of fear would invite that more than if we freed that fear. In other
Mm.
words, you made What the Bleep Do We Know? And that movie has unbelievable positive effects. And there are people who are in their own patterns that when millions of people see it, there's just going to be some people that get some dissociation pattern. There's going to be some people that, should we not release that movie then? Like there's also people that are actors, and then those actors or musicians have stalkers because someone believes they should have murdered John Lennon. Should John Lennon not be in the Beatles? Because there was an actress named Rebecca Schaefer from My Sister Sam, and there was a guy that believed that he had a relationship with her, and he went to her doorstep and killed her. And she's not responsible for his delusion, is my point, right? You're putting out art. There are obsessive fans of Michael Jackson or artists, right? We're just doing art. But one of the things that I hear as a thread for Mark Vicente is an over-the-line responsibility. Like that you are responsible for how others react to what you do.
So much control in there.
Yeah. And you're not. You know, people put out great stuff and some people become obsessed, some people disassociate, some people become offended. It's just like, it's just all their interpretation. And imagine if an apple tree is making apples, but it felt it's responsible for how many people like apples, for did anyone eat a rotten apple? Like, it's just make apples and lose the attachment to
You,
controlling everyone's response to you or what you offer.
so this is interesting because as you're speaking, I suddenly saw flashes of being a kid. It's like there's a part of me that's very delusional that believes that I somehow can control everything. And
Yes.
I can get people to feel a certain thing by my actions, which is delusional.
What if you fill in this blank? If I don't control people's responses or if I don't control everything, I will be what?
First thing straight from my body is out of control.
Out of control. So in childhood, if I'm out of control, what happens?
Fuck, I was always in control. Uh, I was always in control because there was the dread of being punished. Also, I went to boarding school super, super young.
Dread of being
Super young.
punished.
Yeah.
So
And I was punished for being out of control. I went to kind of boarding school where you wore a suit and tie. I started when I was age 6. If you lost control, if you were over emotional, if you were this, that, or the other, it was punishment.
yes. So I want you to take that in for a second. The problem isn't control. Control is your ego's solution to the ultimate fear, which is punishment. And so, yeah, feel that for a second,
It's true.
right? And isn't it interesting that the one that is scared to be punished also was attracted to things that move in terms of punishment? Whether it's a cult that says a thing that sounds like punishment or maybe a religion or a different thing, right? Like it's so funny how we're scared of a thing, but then we move towards it. Like this sounds weird, but I kind of don't believe in punishment. I just believe we keep healing and move to a higher frequency that doesn't do the shame things in the same way. But if you grew up in a house that said you'll end up in hell, if you know, heard that punishment is the response, life becomes control everything. Otherwise, I'll be punished. Now, what happens if we say to the pattern today something totally different? Because also the ego doesn't associate punishment, or it associates punishment to not loved. So what if it also, we say to the pattern, like, you are the one that's here and we're going to talk to the pattern that's a child and say to the child, you're allowed to feel punished in my body.
Yeah. You're allowed to feel punished in my body.
Yeah, because he's trying to resist punishment and control punishment. What if he could just sit in it for a second, not be punished? He already is feeling punished, right? And you're not punishing him, you're loving him even if he feels punished. And that's very different.
Yeah. I have the experience of being with myself when I'm very little during all those times. There was a
Say that
lot of
again.
it. I have this experience now of like wiser me being with myself back when I'm little
Yes.
and watching it, but being there. So funny. I think a part of me was like, I'm never going to do this to anybody else kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's funny because to know what you'll never do to anyone else, you have to hold on to it. So when people go, I'm not going to be like my dad, they hold on to the dad so they cannot be like it, and they become it. I'm not going to be like my mom. Like, I have to remember what mom is. Like, so instead of just being what I truly am and it just accidentally just purging what I won't be, I'm going to control and hold on to what I won't be. Right. And so I will not make anyone else feel punishment. So instead, right, I'm going to hold this thing. I had a client, I have a audio product called Your Soul Is Not For Sale. That's a 3-day event. And the opening, I talk, and then this guy talks. His goal was to not be his dad. And he said, I am not my dad at all. He said, Kyle, you're wrong about this because I am the opposite of my dad. And I did not want to be my dad. And he said, my dad did not see me at all. He did not love me. It made me very uncomfortable and never cared at all. And he goes, I'm the opposite. He goes, with my kids, he goes, I love them so much it almost makes them uncomfortable. And I point out, you should see how good you have it to have me as your dad, because like I am loving you so much. And I said, so let me get this straight. You hug them to where they're uncomfortable in front of their friends, and you don't acknowledge them. You make them feel guilt while you're loving them, and you make you're loving them about you and not them. That sounds exactly like your dad.
Yeah.
Right? In trying to be the opposite, you become the same, right? So one of the things that we got to do is free yourself from the charge of punishment. Because I believe I got to control what everyone thinks is the 5-year-old going, so I'm not punished again. Right?
Yes. And it feels like somatically a part of me has been living back there still. I'm like 60 years old. There's a part of me that has been still back there.
Right. And by the way, do you think you're doing it to punish yourself? Like, it's almost like instead of freeing yourself now from the one who was punished 55 years ago, right? We're punishing ourselves by having to keep going back there, having to,
Yeah. In some ways it feels like I've been holding on. That's become so much part of my identity to hold on to that, to make sure that I'm vigilant.
Mm-hmm.
That it never occurred to me to just be like, well, what if we just let it go?
Mm.
And let vigilance go too. Because I understand there's a part of me I get, like, who I naturally am. There's not a fiber in me that wants to hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
But I have been habituated to holding on to that time.
Tell me where that comes from. Have you hurt someone and you haven't forgiven yourself for it?
I mean, I think it's so interesting. There's a catalog of things that I feel like I've hurt people in different ways that I still obsess about. You know, like saying something that I wish I hadn't said. Seeing people in pain, realizing like whether it was true or not that I felt like, well, I caused that pain.
And it's
so
interesting.
I'm so careful.
I want to look at how passively you said whether it's true or not. Right? Because let me ask you something. Should truth be buried if saying truth would hurt someone? And I don't mean insulting. I mean, yes. You get what I'm saying?
No, I'm with you. Intellectually, it shouldn't be buried. In my body, it should be buried.
So I want you to see your hierarchy is don't hurt someone is first over truth. So if you can't have that conflict with someone, this is a quote I heard from someone else, but you're going to have that conflict internally completely because the conflict has to be somewhere. I don't know why it's thumbs upping me.
I know it happens to me too. I don't know why.
Thanks, Riverside. It's weird too because I had a one-on-one not too long ago with someone, and she was saying something like horrible she was going through, and she cried and she looked down and a bunch of balloons just came on the screen. I was like, this
No,
is the wrong place for
no.
this. Yeah. Um, um, your hierarchy is don't hurt someone over truth.
Yeah,
Now, let me ask you this. What if you have a friend that has a drug issue? What if you have someone that's got a major drug issue, but it would hurt them for you to call it out or tell them?
yeah. Tell them because the consequences are so bad if I don't say something.
Yeah, right. And so, are there more subtle versions of that? What if their drug isn't that bad, but it's a slower drip, slow death that they got going on?
I go through I go through a labyrinth of things in my mind to try to figure out should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I.
Hmm.
And I suppose in the end, if it feels bad enough, in the end, I say something. If it doesn't, I
Yeah. Should I, shouldn't I? If I could get in there, should I, shouldn't I? Or else I have to figure out the right way to do this. Otherwise I will be what?
God, that's interesting. Responsible.
Okay.
And I'm only responsible for the bad things that happen to people, not the good things.
Hmm. That's interesting.
That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't take in compliments. People, say, "Oh my God, this thing you did changed my life," blah blah blah. I'm like, "Oh, that's nice."
Yeah.
But like, God forbid it hurt them. Like that was me.
Yeah. What dies if you receive the positive? Like for you to receive that you're a great person and that you've done great things in the world, and for you to receive that you're deserving of major love and you've done great things for the world, what dies? Like because that's true. I mean, I respect you a ton and love you, brother. And like, if you have a part of you that can't hear that's in your body, like, then something has to stay alive to not just finally relax into the peace of that you're a good person, that you do good things on the planet. What dies if you receive someone telling you, because it's a fact, someone could say to you, you changed my life, or you're involved with changing my life, or that movie changed my life, or that story changed my life. What dies if you receive that you're a good person and doing great things?
I hope this makes sense. The throttling of my true self that's keeping me at bay, so to speak. Like it feels like there's something massive inside of me. And if I don't do that, then I let go of the control of little I,
Mm-hmm.
ego I.
And if you let go of the ego control, what happens to you?
There's an explosion into the infinite. It's very, very big, and it feels bigger than my nervous system is capable of handling.
Yeah. Does the ego I go, we have to control everything because I'm worried this will happen?
Not that conscious, but that's how it feels.
Yeah. It's usually never conscious. In other words, the ego is very vague, and it always has to keep it vague, because if you actually investigate it, you'll see it's a lie. So the ego will say stuff like, you're not enough. But if you say to the ego, okay, just so I know, when am I enough? Like, when is it measured that I'm enough? When I make $1 million a year? When dad says good job? When what have you decided is enough? It can't answer it, right?
Right.
It has
Right.
to just stay vague, right?
Yeah.
So if we really ask it, then all of a sudden it's the ego's gonna, the emperor has no clothes, right? So if you were to ask the ego, you need to control I need to control everything wrong with me. I need to not receive that I'm amazing. I need to not receive that I'm loved. If I let go of the egoic control, what is the ego's biggest fear? Why does it have to hold on to that?
It
I'll
thinks
be,
it's going to die.
yeah, it will die. What
Yeah.
if we say to the ego that's protected you all the way up until today? Because we don't want to work from protection in the frequency we're in now. In other words, you've outgrown that. We're in a time that's outgrown that. You're in a frequency of miracles and abundance and possibility. But we're grabbing onto the old familiar frequency of survival and don't hurt me. And that split is where all the suffering is, because unconsciously you've accessed a higher thing. It's like a legendary musician trying to hold on to being in a community college jazz band. Like Michael Jackson would not feel very fulfilled in a mediocre jazz band, right? Like in a basic thing. That gap, being a Harvard senior going to 5th grade, is where all the suffering is, right? You've accessed a massive amount of magic, right? Like you're wanting to do this inner work. You're working with me. We're doing all this kind of how high can we go free thing. You made what, the Bleep, like 25 years ago, something like that, 20 years ago,
20 years ago,
something
yeah.
like 20 years ago, right? So you've known about what the Bleep content and been doing your own inner work and healing. And you are accessing unconsciously a really magical place, right? This fear and this pain is so far from where you're accessing that it has to go, right? And so
Yes.
it's weird because we're scared to let go of our protector, but we don't get that if we would let go of our egoic protector, we'd be divinely protected. That love will
Yes.
be your protection, that your light will be your protection, that your freedom will be your protection. So what if we say to the pattern that will die, take a deep breath in and say to it, you're allowed to die in my body.
You are allowed to die in my body.
And I want you to become the hospice care center for Mark, who protected you from punishment, who protected you from bad cults, who protected you from control, who protected you from being hurt. You are the space for him, the little boy that protected you from your parents, that protected you from boarding school, that protected you from punishment.
There's a voice in my head that says there's a better way.
In which way did it mean that? Like a better way than what Kyle's offering? Or a
No,
better way?
your way is the better way. It's a better way than everything I've been doing. Like it's it's not what I want.
Yeah. What if we say this because you are already, I'm allowed to be completely free.
I'm allowed to be completely free.
I'm allowed to receive joy.
I am allowed to receive joy.
I'm allowed to receive gratitude from people.
I'm allowed to receive gratitude from people.
Yeah.
That's new.
Yeah. Yeah, like notice that the punishment loop wants to find what's wrong and preemptively come up with how I could hurt people, what they will say. It's already pre-deciding everyone will say bad stuff. It's almost aiming for it.
Yeah, the last one though was interesting. It felt like it was cleaning out old debris.
I noticed that part of you receiving this possibility is a deeper presence too. Like you're more the now than a high. You know what I mean? You're more right now.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's no
because
more story. Yeah, go ahead.
It's almost like I realize I've always, in all this, the inner work I've done for years, I've always been battling these aspects as opposed to just letting them go. Like I've been fighting these things,
Mm,
and they've never got better because
right.
I've never really just worked on just letting them go, or certainly letting this go. And as I let this go, there's this enormous space. There's a lot of space.
Yeah, connect to that space. That space is true, by the way. This invisible space is also true. We just kind of associate truth to 3D physical reality things, right? It's true what they think. We almost associate it's true, like people's trauma is more true to us than the space that's here, right? Like I'm connected to their trauma. You know, this space that you're in is true. And in fact, your entire past isn't. We can't go to your past.
No. It's so I'm feeling this immense thing inside of me, outside of me, everywhere, which I've felt in my life at different times. And this is the very thing I keep saying to people, like there's a giant something inside of you. But in this area I've been fighting it.
Mm. And I would offer to be more interested in the thing that's in you now than like your potential. Do you get what I mean by that?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
like what could this become is a good question on one level.
Mm.
But imagine just time being gone now. Like imagine you just feeling what's in here, and yes, as a byproduct, there will be a potential magical bunch of unfolding. But imagine you just being in the now and really here and creating from here and listening to what it has for you versus kind of that control that goes, imagine what I'll do next year and how big it'll be. And it's like another control, right? Versus like being
Right.
kind of in awe of the vastness that's here right now.
Right. Yes, that makes perfect sense. Because I don't know what's happening in the future anyway.
Right. But that can be a phase we go through. Is like, man, I'm going to do this forever. And then we're escaping now.
Yes.
You know,
100%. Yes. Yeah.
like
And it's
there's,
interesting because I've also recognized, as I'm feeling now so much, it doesn't feel the same at all, but like it's more thinking like that negotiating the past has kept me out of here.
mm, yeah. You know, one thing I did recently with someone, I did a one-on-one and they had a lot of regret. And I said, could you let yourself feel regret? Like if it could be felt and fully allowed, it's weird how much it gets bored and leaves, but our resistance to feeling regret causes it to come up over and over and over again.
Yes.
Same regret, right? And we have to make a new decision every second. So there's not going to be things we don't regret. But it gets bored of being felt once you allow it. So what if like the past would like to just heal by letting regret come up and be loved and honored?
Yes. And it's interesting. All the things I told you at the beginning, all the stories, they don't seem to matter now.
Right. They don't exist
I
even.
don't even remember what they were anymore. Like, what were they
Yeah.
again? I don't know. I don't know.
But don't you feel that, like, I think Rupert Spira does this analogy about a lot of people think they're the movie, but they're the screen, and the screen is here overnight. The screen exists. You're this space. What if it's like just we've been replaying an old movie, that guy's in prison. It's gone. That you did your service. We it's all done. And we've been just re-picking up something. A lot of times people say, I got to let go of this, but they just re-pick it up. If I said, I got to let go of this pen right here, everybody, I'm trying to let go of this pen. I just am picking it up, right? So people do that. I got to let go of this old relationship. I got to let go of this old story. I got to let go of this money issue. It's like, there's nothing we even need to pick up.
Right.
Like that story is gone.
Yes.
And then think of what the movie screen could play later.
There's this, just in my body, like there's this electrical feeling that I have now, like in my chest, that's very familiar. Feels amazing.
What's it feel like?
It's very expansive, goes beyond the boundaries of my body. I've had this at different times in my life. I had it as a child. I had this feeling as a child when I was in the bush in Africa, living with my grandparents. It's just very warm. It's very big. Very big.
Yeah. Connect to that and feel that. And I love that. And one of the things that I think is going to be huge for you too is, I remember when we were talking and you had, felt disappointed by people that you had looked up to in the past, right? Like, obviously, that's what this series is about. We're watching on HBO right now. And one of the things that you'll notice is the more you're connected to your heart, the less anyone else will ever be on a pedestal again. That it's time for Mark's connection to be to Mark, and that, you can give so much attention to someone on a pedestal and give them love, but can't receive that you deserve love. And for you to receive and deserve love, everyone else is off the pedestal then. There's just no pedestals.
That is so true. And I was just thinking, just saying that, because when you're in a state like this, like you're not looking outside. When I'm developing strategies to help people make sure that this doesn't happen to them, which is an obsession. And then to switch back to this, when I'm in this, I'm like, well, here's the shortcut. Just fill everything up and or allow everything in and through. And then you're not, looking out there.
Right. If people just understood they're amazing and they don't have to have anyone on a pedestal, this stuff won't happen to them. Right.
I've been a professional pedestaler.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have too. I mean, I had a dream that, I saw John Williams, the musician that does Star Wars theme song and Superman and stuff. And then I was in the dream. I looked at someone in a store. This was like 2 weeks ago. I had a dream that I thought I saw John Williams at a store. And I looked at Amber and I looked at the clerk and I was like, that's John Williams. And then he turned out to not be John Williams. And he went to a piano and was pretty mediocre. And then I had a dream that right after that same night, that Michael Beckwith was doing like a street fair thing or something, and I drove a Tesla and I just gently bumped into that, and Michael Beckwith and everyone in the street fair was mad at me, and they said I caused damage that I didn't cause. And I had this dream actually translated, and I'm not saying this is the real translation, but boy, does this translation make sense to me. Both of those were Kyle was waiting for authority outside of him to see him and understand him. And Michael Beckwith's always been a hero of mine, so he would absolutely be in a category of an authority to me. And it said in the dream, it's time for him to stop making everyone outside of him authority. And that, John Williams wasn't even John Williams, it was just a guy, but Kyle was so starstruck and then disappointed. And this is the end of Kyle's everyone's on a pedestal and everyone is the answer outside of me. Right. And I'm going through the same thing. Like,
I don't know why you're telling me this. This has nothing to do with me. I don't have this problem.
I mean,
but by the way, I used to live near John Williams, a block away from him when I first moved to LA.
Oh, that's so weird.
It was kind of awesome.
Don't you think that's weird, Mark?
Yep. There's a lot of stuff.
That that
There's weird connections.
they don't know that. Can we share what you shared with me when we did the sketch together? That
Oh yeah, so the sketch we did, which Kyle wrote, and we shot it at your house. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. There's a line in there that somebody talks about Nelson Mandela, and what's really crazy is that I ran from the military police in South Africa for 7 years because I refused to go to military service because I didn't believe in the war. And so when Mandela got released, and I was shooting the movie Serafina, I got to meet him. He came to set, which is absolutely extraordinary. And then
wow,
shortly after, when he became president, he pardoned all of us that had, not gone to military service because we objected to it. And so I was finally free, and no longer being
wow,
pursued by the military police. And then the other crazy thing was there's a line in there about Star Wars, and of course my wife is a Star Wars actress, none of
it's
which you knew when
crazy.
you wrote this.
I didn't have any idea. And
Yeah,
then I tell you about John Williams, and he was your neighbor.
yeah, it's crazy. It's
So you want
crazy.
to know something funny? When Amber and I got married, we just followed our heart and did it. We got an Airbnb, didn't know what the address would be. The Airbnb was 1 block away from Golden Amber Court. And
No.
then when we got married, we called a company that did it in the woods, and they said, "Meet us at this hotel." We pull up the hotel and it's on Kyle Canyon.
What?
I'm not kidding.
It's a simulation. The whole thing is a fantastic simulation.
Dude, when I was about to start seeing Amber, I had a gig in Salt Lake City, and I get off the plane and I walk by a guy, and he's holding up a sign, and it says Amber Heart Lyne. Now Amber's name is Amber Lynn. What's that? Amber Lynn Hart, it said. And I took a picture of it and I sent it to Amber. Now you want to know something really crazy? Amber and I, a month and a half ago, go with Vivi to Monterey. We get off the plane, and a guy is holding that same sign that says Amber Heart. And we just waited, and this woman gets off, goes up to the guy with the sign, and I said, "Is your last name Lynn?" And she said, "It's Line." And I go, "Yep. Were you in Salt Lake City 2023?" And she goes, "Yep." And so same sign, same time getting off the plane again, remembering it, and it's when I was starting to see Amber. When I was about to date Amber, Amber said this, she has this fun thing. She goes, I have this thing where I just like to know that there's a sign that I'm supposed to be with you. So I want to see a blue wolf." And I was like, "A blue wolf?" Like, so I took pictures of, Oracle cards with regular wolves on them, and I painted them blue and sent it. Like, "How about this?" She goes, "No, it can't be that." When we got to my house, an assistant was at my house, and she sends me a picture of two wolves that are on the gate to my house from the previous owner that I didn't even know. Two blue wolves were on the gate to my house.
No.
I'm not kidding. And like, I'm just like, oh, the synchronicities in this are crazy. I can't believe I mentioned John Williams to you and he lived down the street from you.
It's crazy.
Like, I could have said any celebrity, and what a not common celebrity to reference,
No, and also his music. I mean, his music. I love his music.
And
He's
it's
an
Star Wars.
amazing man. He's an amazing man. You
Yeah,
know, um, Kyle, I'm so appreciative. You have helped me enormously in
of
ways I
course, man.
don't know how to describe yet. Very, very
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, man. You are more than all those stories, and those were still positive stories. You helped people and did amazing things. But just know that even, at one point when I left my Comedy Central career, I was like, God, I'm even more amazing than my dream career. I'm even more profound than my dream. Like, you can outlive your dream, you can outlive your past, you can outlive your story, and a new story is trying to form for you, man. And it's amazing we now live in the same area and can hang out and stuff like that. And
Absolutely.
feel I feel it's so weird that, for people that don't know, I needed a female in the sketch. I called Michelle, and she happened to be telling me at the same time, "You were in town and wanted to meet up." And I had this guided sketch, and the next thing I know, we're doing the sketch. It's like 300,000 views now. People love it. It's so funny. But that
It's
was
doing well.
just a setup for the beginning of us being good friends.
Yeah. And my
And
wife, Bonnie, kept on saying, I know you're going to meet Kyle. I know you're going to be friends. I'm like, how do you know that? She says, I know. I just know.
and she and you are both so wonderful, and we're so grateful to be friends with you guys. And we should get
Thank
dinner
you.
soon and
Yes.
receive our new energy of how and it's not narcissism to be proud of yourself. It's not
Yes.
narcissism to be grateful, you know?
Yes. And we'll have dinner, the old married couple and the new married couple.
Yeah, dude,
I love that.
honored.
I love that.
Honored and love you, brother.
Thank you so much, Kyle. It's honestly, it's a massive weight. I can't even describe it because it's so much is somatic and energetic, but there's just like a lot of movement. And yeah, I look forward to our next discussion when I see you again, which is probably a few days, I imagine.
Yeah, totally. Text anytime. Honored to know you, bud.
Likewise, my friend. Likewise. I hope that session was as powerful for you as it was for me. For me, it was life-changing. It's had ripple effects for the last few days. So incredible work that Kyle does. So check him out. If you'd like to learn more about me and my journey and what I'm doing, markvicente.com. If you want to learn about my mentoring and what I offer, go to markvicente.com/mentoring. And you can learn a little bit about what I do when I'm not making movies. Actually, sometimes I'm doing that and making movies. Very often I am. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.